Hello, my name is Eric, and today I'm going to show you how to set the horsepower limiter on an Oil Gear PVWJ series pump. What I have in front of me is a PVWJ 098, that's one of our C-frame pumps, and it has horsepower limiting. And this procedure is going to be very similar for our PVWJ B frames and our PVWJ A frames. But in this particular presentation, I'm going to focus on the PVWJ C frame. So this is our horsepower adjuster, and the settings for the horsepower adjuster are going to be underneath this tamper-proof cap. And my recommendation is not to change the setting on this unless we're drawing too much current or drawing too much horsepower and we need to make a small adjustment. Usually the more common reason that we need to make this adjustment is that a mechanic has been working on the pump and he has these two adjusters out of spec, or he's turned them and he's lost where he was working. So I'll show you how to get the pump back to factory settings using a simple ruler and some wrenches. On the screen I'm showing a graphic that represents the pressure versus flow curve for a PVWJ 098 factory set at 28 horsepower. There are a few points on this curve to take note of. The first is going to be the flow on the vertical axis. We're going to have approximately 46 gallons per minute at low or no pressure. As the pressure begins to increase, the flow will decrease to maintain an approximate constant horsepower. So we reach the first point, that is our break point. That's the point at which the flow begins to decrease. And on this chart it's 350 psi. So as pressure continues to rise, our flow will continue to decrease until we reach our second break point. That second break point is at 2150 psi. You can see that on the chart where the curve bends again. And finally, as pressure increases, we reach 2500 psi, and that's the point at which the pump compensates and the flow is reduced to near zero to maintain that constant maximum pressure. Now, on the pump, the settings for the two break points are accomplished through this adjuster right here. The first break point is going to be the X point, and that number is shown on the screen as a location of X equals 0.82. And that means that there is 0.82 inches from the machine flat on the control to the end of the first adjuster. There are actually two adjusters underneath this cap. 9/16 jam nut that holds the outer adjuster in place. So we can get this back to factory settings or confirm the settings using a simple ruler or a machinist scale. So that first X dimension is 0.82 inches, and we can confirm that by measuring the length of the adjuster from the machine surface to the end of the adjuster. So we'll set that at 0.82 in this example. Now we need to set the second break point. That is our Y dimension, and that is the point at 2150 where the rate of flow changes. And for this particular example, it's 1.27 inches, and that's going to be the distance from this machine surface to the outer adjuster. So again, we simply measure 1.27 inches from the machine flat to the end of the adjuster. And if that adjuster's off a little bit, we'll need to turn that. And as we turn that, we'll need to hold the inner adjustment while we turn the outer adjustment. So we can hold this and turn the adjuster to reach that desired setting. At that point, we can run down the lock nut, set that, tighten it. We'll put on the tamper-proof cap, and that'll lock down the larger or X dimension adjuster. So that's the procedure for setting the horsepower on a PVWJ back to factory settings. If you need to know what these dimensions are for your particular pump, it's best to give us a call. We'd be happy to generate a curve very similar to the one you saw on the screen that shows the X and Y dimensions for a specific pump displacement and required horsepower setting. And our inside salespeople can quickly and easily generate a PDF of this curve for your particular pump and get that sent right out to you. So that's a procedure for checking the setting or slightly changing the setting on a PVWJ C-frame. Procedure also applies to other displacement PVWJ pumps.